What's up, everybody? My name is Marcus, aka Big Herc. I'm from North Highlands, California, which is in Sacramento, the capital city. That's pretty much where I was born and raised throughout my adolescent years, and representing the capital. Sacramento. I mean, growing up, I was pretty much raised by my grandparents. My mom had me real young. She was a freshman in high school when she had me, and there was a lot of ex-military out there. A lot of brothers from down south who had retired in Sacramento, settled down. A lot of agriculture out there, but at the same time, you got a lot of gangs. A lot of shit jumping off. As a kid, it wasn't that bad, but when I came back when I was around 13, 14, there was a lot of gang activity in the 80s, a lot of drug dealing, a lot of shit going on in the streets. North Highlands, that's where I'm from late seventh grade up until my sophomore year of high school. And that was the most probably influential time of my life because I did so much shit during that time. My grandmother, she was a primary influence on me. But, she drank a lot. My grandmother, used to be drunk for a week, 2 weeks at a time, sober a couple of days, drunk again. She was a great person, had a great heart, but she, whatever burden she carried, she took it out through the bottle. So she drank a lot. And as a kid, I seen that. And, and my mom, being young, as soon as she had the opportunity, she moved out. And then she got married right out of high school to this brother who was a piece of shit. And he was in the military, so we ended up moving. So we moved, but we would always come back to Sacramento to visit, family, grandparents and stuff like that. So, a lot of the things I learned on my own, I basically self-taught. This guy that she married, he wasn't really any type of male influence. He was a light-skinned brother, I was a dark-skinned kid. He let it be known that I was his stepson, so we had no relationship. So I spent a lot of time in my room, solitary. I was always into creating stuff, drawing, making stuff, models. I was a straight A student in school, so I kind of embraced books and like a whole fantasy life. That was my escape from that relationship that my mom had with this dude.
Did your mom observe whatever tension you had with your stepfather?
To some degree, but she worked. She was work all day. So when she was at work, and this guy came home, smoked his weed, drank his Mad Dog 2020, I stayed in the room. I used to stay in the room, so I didn't really have a lot of interaction. I'd go out and play, but for the most part, he kind of took away any type of fun I had in my life. So I was pretty much isolated. She'd come home, or the day she was off, we would do stuff, but for the most part, I just stayed in my room and kind of did my own thing. And then, she had a little brother and I kind of babysat him, but that was pretty much it. And then it also, I think that kind of led down to why it was so easy to take out anger towards other black men, because of having this guy who was a black man who didn't accept me. So as, I got older and engaged other activities which required me to be physically violent towards other individuals, I didn't hesitate because I'd already had that anger and felt like, there was no black unity. There was no bond there. So I didn't have any problems, asserting myself when it came to that.
When is it when you start getting in trouble as a kid? You mentioned taking out your anger on some kids. What age were you when you started doing that?
I never got in trouble as a kid. I was a straight A student. I didn't get in any trouble until I got to when I was 14 and I started selling dope. But before that, I never got in any trouble. I got into some fights when we lived in Texas with some kids who called me the N-word because I never heard racism until I moved this. I was living out there. We were living in Galveston, and I used to fight kids every day after school. These little white kids used to try to jump me, and me and my other black friend or my little Indian friend, we used to be fighting with these white kids. But other than that, I never got in any trouble. I never stole or did stupid stuff like that. I just I stayed out of trouble. But when my mom got divorced and we moved back to the hood and I got around, I seen a certain amount of influence, that's when I, dabbled into the game, and that's when I really got in trouble. But before that, I'd never got in trouble.
So how old were you when your mom divorced your stepfather?
I'd say I think I was around 12, maybe 13, 12.
And then I guess moving back to where you were living before.
Yeah, well, we moved back to North Highlands, but we lived on the other side of North Highlands, which was we moved to a street which was unknown but told was a dope street. So that street had a lot of people she went to school with. We used to see on that street that were now dope fiends, and there's a lot of ex-penitentiary dudes on that street, and it was a popping street. People would come down there and just cruise down the street and hang out at the park, and it drew a lot of elements. And so initially we moved back out there. My mom had 3 kids, me and my little brother and sister to take care of. She's working 2 jobs. And, I'm going to school and doing our thing. My grandparents live on the other side of North Highlands, but they actually helped us get the house. But my mom, she didn't want no handout, so she's always paying rent. She's taking care of bills. But, we're struggling. It's a lot of struggling going on. And my grandmother's still off and on drinking during that time. And, I've been seeing a lot of things in the streets, and I'm getting exposed to a lot more, elements that are kind of like seeming attractive at the time. After my freshman year playing football, playing basketball, I'm seeing dudes at school with money. I'm seeing dudes with the fresh feel of the troops. I'm seeing dudes, with cars and just doing, flossing with the D's and the old school 5.0s and just, doing little things. I'm starting to look at that, and I'm still a straight A student. I'm looking at school. I'm thinking like, well, damn, man, that seems like it's an opportunity over there. And now I didn't have anybody in my family, so nobody in my family sold dope. I didn't really have anybody an older brother to turn to say, ask him about the dope game. But I was curious, but so it eventually led to me asking a homie, how do I get involved in this? How can I become a drug dealer? And that's what kind of led to me getting involved in that, But before that, the most we did was run up in stores and maybe steal some shoes or jackets or clothing and stuff like that, because everybody wanted to be fly in high school.
Now, when you say flossing with the D's, you talking about those Dayton rims?
Yeah. D's had come through with the 5.0 on a triple gold D's, or the Cutlass on D's, or Zenith and Vogues, the Jerry curls, the dudes with the finger waves, with the perms, and they having bread, and this is like probably 80, 85, 80, 86. So it's cracking. You seeing all this stuff, and you're like, damn, and it's, and and then my grandpa at the time, he's working, and I mean, we see them here and there, but it's not like I'm not sitting down getting any type of. I still have no male mentor. I hadn't had a male mentor because my stepdad, like I said, was a piece of shit. So everything I'm getting as far as mentorship is coming from what I get from the streets, the homies, playing sports, or just what I observe as I go out on my day to day. And what was the most attractive was just that lifestyle. When I seen these dudes, it looked like they were having it.
Now, in those mid '80s, all these things were actually quite expensive. To get a set of rims, was real expensive.
Yeah.
As it is compared to what it is today.
Yeah, you had to be balling. You had D's. You had to be, D's. Talking about a couple thousand. You had the 5.0 with the triple gold with the beat. I mean, dudes was like, they were like gods. I mean, you had a pair of troops back then, $100-something bucks. You were balling with nobody. I mean, $100 pair of shoes in the '80s. You were doing big things. You're trying. And I was playing sports, but nobody really supported me playing sports. So I'm like, my dream was like, man, maybe I can make it to the NBA. And then so I tried basketball, or football, maybe to get me somewhere. But I had nobody, telling me about SATs or prepping for college or anything like that. Nobody was guiding me in that direction. And then on the flip side, it's like I came up with ideas for clothing. I used to write Nike, write Adidas. So I was very creative. I drew pictures of shoes. I was sending my sketches in, and I'd write these people on the side of the shoebox. And I was doing a lot of different things, not just hoods. Before I went to the dope game, to see if there was an opportunity, I tried to design video games, draw a bunch of stuff, and so I did all these different things just out of my own mind. Nobody told me to do this. I just did it on my own. And so when I seen that stuff didn't work, I'm like, well, shit, I need to jump on this other tip, and that's what led to me getting into the dope game.
So what was you, about 14, 15 when you started curb serving, I guess?
Yeah, curb serving about 14 and a half, about 14 and a half when I first got into the game. When I first got my first, the homie served me a 20 piece or 40 piece. I had $20. and I flipped that, and then I flipped to 40, then I flipped to 80, then by the end of the day I had a couple $100 on my 10 speed, and I just be riding back and forth up the block, and then started serving dope. And then I got my other homeboy, put him up on it, and we both were serving dope, watching each other's back.
And what was going on with school during those times?
School, it was summer, so we weren't really, summer was popping off, so it was just wide open. And you don't know, I mean, you really don't know shit about the game, so you're kind of just like, you kind of know, like, you got to watch out for the cops, you got to hide your dope, you got to, watch out for the dope fiends. And so, we're just grinding. And during that time, we had all day. My mom was working 2 jobs. I had all day to myself, and I babysit my brother and sister here and there. But at the same time, I had my partner and me. We take turns and selling dope. And I had dope fiends, like grown men twice my age, working for me. Bringing me money. So I was getting money. In school, I always took care of my school stuff. Even when I was at summer school, I would go to summer school in the mornings and then sell dope in the afternoons. My educational level was on a whole nother level than most of these guys. Most of these guys, they barely had maybe a 6th grade, 5th grade education. I was already taking chemistry class. I was taking algebra, trigonometry. I had taken Spanish. I mean, I was educational wise on a whole nother level. So I kind of seen that I didn't belong, but at the same time, I just dealt with it, man. It kind of made me a stronger individual, but also opened my eyes up. But I didn't have anything to reflect off of, because I still didn't have that male figure lacing me up. My grandfather, he never really still gave me any type of male influence. And then I had no other male figure to kind of turn to try to get any type of cultivation. So I was still lost.
Thanks for watching StreetGangs.com. Please like and share the video you just watched, and leave a comment below to tell us what you think. You can also watch 2 of our previous episodes to the right. Please visit the link to our Patreon page and support our campaign. And don't forget to subscribe.